The holidays are officially in full swing, which means there is decadent food everywhere you turn, and that has been no exception here in my kitchen. Between holiday baking and my oldest daughter's birthday, we've just been baking lots of sweet, sugary foods that we wouldn't typically eat, at least not this frequently. And eating for most people tends to be atypical this time of year, and I know that it can bring on a lot of stress. And as a dietitian who specializes in intuitive eating, but also as someone who used to really struggle around this time of year when it came to food myself, I have some practical tips I'm going to share with you guys today to help you navigate these upcoming holiday gatherings and all of the decadent food that's going to be available to you so that you can actually enjoy it without going overboard and feeling guilty and feeling stressed about it, or like you need to cleanse or purge or lose a bunch of weight come the new year. My first of 6 tips has to do with if you are actually doing the baking and the cooking. And there is actually a huge opportunity here where you can control the ingredients and more specifically the quality of the ingredients that you're using. So I have no problem baking up a storm when it comes to cookies and sweets and all kinds of yummy things that we really only make this time of year. But I am going to use, unbleached, organic, all-purpose flour and grass-fed butter, and I'm going to try and use a high-quality organic sugar. A lot of times it's just, cane sugar, or sometimes it's sucanat, which is even less processed. And I'm just trying to make more wholesome ingredient choices so that the end product becomes more nourishing, or at least not quite as quote-unquote bad as some people might want to call it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with eating sweets. I'm a big proponent of seeing food as neutral, and that is one way that you can really help keep yourself from, feeling like you need to binge this time of year. But there's definitely a big opportunity here to use higher quality ingredients. If you are doing the baking yourself, it's obviously easier to just swing by your local grocery store bakery section and pick something up. But you have to remember, when things are produced in mass, they are going to have a lot more ingredients added that you probably would never use at home. And also you have to remember that they are looking for a longer shelf life. So there's going to be a lot of different, additives and stabilizers or dough conditioners or whatever it is to make that end product taste good, but also last a long time. The following 5 tips are all practical tips that you can put into play when you actually are out in the real world at these holiday gatherings or times out with friends and family where you're going to be around all of this decadent food. And this next tip is a super important one, and this is a trap that people often fall into, and that is not starving yourself the day of or eating really light the day of, knowing that you're going to be eating, let's say a lot of high calorie foods later in the day at some kind of event. The reason this is actually such a terrible idea is because it actually completely sets you up for failure and to have less control around all of those foods. And that is because if you're not eating throughout the day, or you're not eating enough throughout the day, it's going to send your blood sugar down, which is going to make you crave carbohydrates or just food in general. So when you do eventually show up at that event, you're going to feel less in control, and you're going to feel more like you want to binge on these foods. I have a whole video that goes over blood sugar if you want to check that out, but this is a huge tip. If I were you, I would just eat like you normally would throughout the day. Another tip is when you arrive at these events or gatherings is to actually kind of take inventory of all of the delicious food that's available to you. And the reason I say this is because you really only have a certain amount of space in your stomach until you reach comfortable fullness. So for me, I want to be, I want to eat the things that are going to be the most delicious, that sound the best to me, that I really want the most, so that I can reap the most satisfaction out of the, allotted space, let's say, I have to eat and, to get to that place of comfortable fullness. So go ahead, take a lap, check out all the appetizers, maybe see what's happening for dinner. Maybe you can get a peek at the desserts, and you can kind of, not that you have to plan out what you want to eat, I want you to enjoy it, But this allows you, again, to get the most satisfaction, to eat what you really want, that's going to bring you the most joy, let's say, which allows you to have that satisfaction factor with less of a chance that you're going to overeat, feel uncomfortable, feel guilty, and all of that. My next tip is to actually give yourself space to enjoy the food. And what I mean by that is to be very mindful and to actually tap into the eating experience. So this time of year, there's often a lot of foods or, like whether it's sweet or savory dishes that we don't typically eat all year long. And we want, again, to have that max satisfaction factor. So I really want you to actually pay attention to what you're eating. So like take in the aromas, experience the mouthfeel, really like pay attention to the different flavors and the textures as you're eating the food, which if you're not someone who eats mindfully, that might sound super weird, but you will actually reap so much more out of that eating experience, and you can get even more satisfaction out of it, and you may actually end up eating less. So when you're biting into that mouth-watering steak or that traditional family cookie, make sure that you're really being present for it and enjoy it. Food is such a huge part of holiday gatherings, sitting around the table, breaking bread, feasting together. These are all wonderful things, but I also want you to remember you shouldn't really just focus on the food. We can hyper-focus on food, and that's where a lot of the struggle lies, but I really want you to strike that healthy balance between enjoying everything that's available, but also not fixating on it. So remember, when you're at these gatherings, what are you really there for? You're there to spend time with friends and family. So try and shift your focus away from the food, or at least somewhat away from the food. I mean, I'm a foodie. I love the food. I am all for it, but it's also about connecting. It's also about socializing. It's also about just being with friends and family that we hold dear. So use this time to be present, to connect, to really revel in the company of others without fixating so much on what you're eating or maybe what you're not. Next, I want you to give yourself lots of grace. This time of year is definitely an outlier when it comes to really so many things. We're very busy. There's a lot more on our plate that we need to, check off our list per se. But when it comes to food, this is especially true. And when you go to these gatherings and events, now armed with, these tips in your back pocket, you still may overeat and, you might go past the point of comfortable fullness. You still may eat too many sugary cookies or cake or pie or whatever it is, and you might feel a little sluggish the next day. It's okay. Your body is going to digest all of that food. It's going to move on, and you're going to feel like yourself again. As an intuitive eater, I personally have become very good at balancing reaping that satisfaction while also still feeling good and not compromising how I feel physically. But times like this, sometimes there's a bit of a trade-off. Sometimes you do want to test or try that extra cookie that someone brought to the cookie exchange, or you want to go out to eat, another time to meet up with those friends you haven't seen in a while. And it can be a little bit of a trade-off. And maybe there are going to be some days where your digestion's off, or you're feeling a little sluggish, or you ate too many cookies, but you also were able to enjoy a lot of time out, connecting and being present with others. So again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. The key difference here is that we are not going so overboard and, binging and complete loss of control to where we get to the point where we feel we must restrict and, go on a diet or do the juice cleanse or whatever it is to regain control. It's just a gentle correction back because we didn't go crazy overboard. We maybe just went a little overboard. And, we don't feel that we need to now enact these extremes to get back to feeling our usual self. That is the situation I know that I often used to find myself in. It's very common, but it is totally possible to enjoy all that's available without feeling at the end of it that all of a sudden you need to do something extreme in the new year to get back your body or get back to your usual self or have better energy. Really, it's all about just eating well in general, taking care of yourself in general, and these like outlying times that are very brief really won't make a big ripple in your life. So enjoy it while it's there. Use my tips to not go totally overboard. That way you can enjoy yourself, you can reap all the satisfaction, you don't have to miss out on things, or you don't have to miss out on food you really want to try or want to eat. But you can also not completely be guilt-ridden and, you know, feel sick to your stomach, or, you know, just completely trash your health for a few weeks either. I hope that you guys found this video and these tips especially helpful. I wish you all of the holiday blessings. I hope you enjoy all of the gatherings, and I hope you have a wonderful end to your holiday season. And especially, I hope that you have a wonderful start to your 2024. If you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love for you to join my little community here on YouTube, especially as we move into the new year. And of course, leave me down in the comments some suggestions of videos that you would like to see as we move into this next chapter and this new year. As always, thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.